there's the dog again. Yeah. Because there's a lot of times in like movies or just going around town, I see something that I could incorporate into an exterior in something, and you know, I think that's pretty much the way to do it. Is just find things you can work with. It kind of reminds me how they talk about building worlds in Inception. You know, you use references of real world things. Yeah, and that's where I get very, very lost trying to do that sort of thing. Like when, once upon a time, I was doing a project in Pavre, which was, I was making a chessboard, and I had a design in my head for all the pieces except for the knight. Because the knight's typically a horse, and I looked at it and I'm like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to render this.
Today's victory is as much yours as anyone's. Your strength too will be needed in the struggle to free the world from evil. You know what you must do. The people of the last bastion will learn to make do without you, as I hope will I. So please.
Well, yeah, I mean, you in pretty much everything, you're going to use something, some kind of reference. I mean, some do it more or less subtly than others. For example, in the world of 2D art, in comics, there's a guy by the name of Greg Land who uses... First off, he's using, from what I can tell, porn models in his references. But it's not just reference in his case. He actually appears to be tracing things as opposed to drawing. Appears to be. That's a big thing, you know. Cool. I mean, there was a time I went to the cemetery and photographed the shit out of a mausoleum just to see how it was made. And I had no idea that those columns weren't straight. They're kind of bowed towards the middle. And I had no idea about this. And I guess that's actually very common, and there's a reason for it visually, but I don't quite understand it. There's probably even a proper word for what kind of column it is. But yeah, I had the idea. I'm like, okay, I want to go see what these things look like in real life. And there's actually a local example, and I go and I look, I'm like, oh, I've got everything wrong. I don't even know how I would do this. Not with these primitives. I think that's what it is. But I'm kind of surprised that people that far back had that sorted out. Oh, hey, Henrik is playable now. What kind of gear does he have? Oh, we could give him this big fuck-off axe. A Helidornian sword. see. Oh, I sold that steel helmet. Let's speed him up a little and... what else? Okay, so his attack is reasonably good. Oh, certainly so. No, this is a project I was trying to do in Pavre, so it wasn't game related. It was just an attempt at art. So I pondered how to do it for a long time. I mean, you can do a lot of cool stuff with lathes in Pavre, but okay, I should probably figure out where I'm going now. Oh, there's Gemma.
Trust that you slept well? Or did the people perhaps not permit you the luxury of rest, eh? Or even better, there is no surer sign of a kingdom at peace than a high-spirited populace. Now, to more serious matters. Hendrik, there is something I wish you to have.
Oh, the Black Shield. Good.
You are like a son to me. And it is a father's duty to prepare his offspring for the dangers that await them.
Okay, so this... I should probably look at what his options are.
You wear it well. The shield has always been... You have no No. I understand that you had hoped for the work, but all hope is not lost. He spoke of another. A holy mountain in the south known as Pang Lai. The fate of those who dwell there is deeply intertwined with that of the luminary, or so he said. It may be mere hearsay, a conversation half remembered, but if it is true, you may yet find help in your quest to defeat the Lord of Shadows. Venture west through the Mangle Grove, and you will find a valley that leads to the Costa Valor. Pass through the checkpoint beyond it, and you will soon find Mount Pang Lai. It is not a road I have traveled myself.
Okay, so I need to see what Hendrik's options are, because if he's got this badass shield, it just seems in character that he would use it. Let me see. So it'd be one-handed. We'll try it out, and then we'll give him the Shield of Heliodor. Doesn't seem to do anything really special, but... it just seems like it would be more suitable to the character to actually be using that. It's weird because I'll make decisions like that even in Dark Souls. Like I'll come up with a loose background for my character. I'll have some reason why he'll use something or not. I mean, it depends on the run I'm doing, but character builder. What do I have for... Jesus, 73 points. Swords, shields, axes? And heroism. Okay. Yeah, the curve just kind of bulges out. And it struck me as a little subtle at the time. I honestly think that's what it is. Okay, let's oh, hell. I'll just use whatever he's got right now. Okay. So shields and great swords. That's Glockenspiel? Seriously? Oh, that's interesting. You'd think they might mention it, but maybe it just seemed so obvious at the time. Okay, and is this the standard sword branch? It is. Okay, well, it's going to be a little expensive to do a full respec on him, but let's see, attack is 230. That's pretty respectable, and he's actually a bit of a tank with a 205 defense. So that's totally workable. I can respec him later. I got money in the bank. Aw. Yeah, but it might have just been passed down orally. I mean, when you consider, say, most businesses that have been going on for a while, if you 100% replace the staff, and they had to go by existing manuals, nothing would work, because there's always that... there's always the institutional knowledge that kind of comes with the place. There's a lot of stuff that isn't written, in terms of, like, day-to-day office procedure, for example. Because nobody takes the time to write down, because it's always these minor things, and they always build up. And I think that, you know, that could be the case with some things in the past. Like, Damascus steel might be another example. It's just something, yeah, well, we all kind of know how to make it. We don't really need to write this down. And then, well, as it turns out, nobody quite knows exactly what they had to do. Yeah. Or even when I was in security, you know, we had at most 6 people on the site, so you could communicate everything pretty quickly, and our SOP book had nothing to do with the site after a while. When I first started there, they said, oh yeah, on Tuesdays and Fridays there's a dairy delivery at 1 in the morning. Turns out that just wasn't the case by the time I started there. The manual was a couple years old. Then I asked the site manager at the time, I'm like, hey, how come that dairy truck never showed up at 1 a.m.? He's like, dairy truck? They haven't done that in a year. I'm like, oh, go figure. So that sort of thing's pretty common. And, you know, every time we got a new site manager, you're like, oh yeah, man, I'm going to rewrite the SOP manual. I'm like, no, you're not. You're just not. I'm sorry. I don't know how to break it to you, but that's not a thing you're actually going to get done ever. I kind of wonder how things are going now, you know, a few months since I've left there, because, you know, I didn't document anything I did. I don't think anyone else did either. I don't even think I looked at the SOP manual for years, because I knew that despite revisions, it was still going to be grossly out of date. Isn't it, though? Okay, these mobs aren't even worth fighting. They're just gonna... In fact, let's be sensible about this, and, oh, where is it? There it is. Now, generally, holy water only repels weaker monsters, which is perfectly fine by me, because I don't want to waste my time with them. That big blue fucker. Oh yeah? Wow, holy water does not last. Yeah. When I was working at the grocery store, the store manager was a real piece of shit, and he was somebody who could not see that anyone was doing any good if they weren't one of his buddies. So he looked for an excuse to kick me out of the position while I was injured. And he put one of his little buddies in there. And since I was still working at the store at the time, I could just watch him fuck it up. And I remember vendors coming by and saying, "Man, this guy is just not on it. What's the deal?" I'm like, "Oh Jesus." Well, because I used to start there at, they scheduled me to come in at 6 in the morning. I always started at 5:30 because there's vendors who need to get in, and they need to move along. This guy never started till 6, so, I'd start most mornings at 7 or 8, and you got the guy delivering the Little Debbie stuff, just standing in the back waiting for something to do, because this guy hasn't come in yet. So, yeah, sorry, man, that's just how it is when you get, this dude putting in his little sycophants. He's one of those guys who, the guy running the place, he's one of those people who doesn't have friends. Just people who kind of keep him around because he's bumbled into a position of some kind of authority. So they suck up to him. And he's like, "Oh, I have buddies now." And I don't think he's had a conversation with someone that it wasn't transactional in his life. And he's one of those people, the more you learn about him, the more you go, "Wow, what a detestable little shit." I have pretty good reason to believe that he may have fathered a kid out of wedlock. Which or rather, as the result of an affair, I should say. Which is, God, it tells you a lot about him, in my opinion. I often do that, I often look at things, structures and stuff, and ask myself how you would put this together, and at what point is it still geometry, and what point is it, stuff to make the textures look better. Like, because obviously you're not gonna, when you make a big thing of wood like this, you're not necessarily gonna go through and, render all of this as planks. It's like, where does the geometry end and the textures and shaders begin? Okay, can I forge anything cool? Let's see. Let's do my iron headgear. Oh, that's something. Let's see here. Seriously? So this is not going to be an improvement at all. Yeah, I remember I remember someone was talking about, I mean, it was probably John Lasseter, talking about why they made the various Pixar movies like they did. And they said, the rendering technology we could manage at the time made everything look like plastic for the most part. So we did our first movie, so we did Toy Story. And then it's like, well, we were able to get, we were able to render one thing with a bunch of hair, and everything else kind of not. So we did Monsters Inc., which had one monster with a ton of hair. and literally the decisions made in the movies are heavily based on the technology at the time, and apparently they still made entertaining movies in the process. So, I mean, good for them. I've watched very few of them, so I can't comment. But, I think it was... And then you get stuff like Interstellar. And I thought that was kind of fascinating. The research and development they did for the movie... They needed to create a custom renderer for the black hole sequence. Basically, the ray tracer had to take into account light bending because of gravity, which is something that I don't think has ever been done. Oh, hey, that could be kind of neat. I mean, if you want the retro PS1 look, you just have to try and calculate all your textures without floating point, because that was a thing they did. That's why textures in the PS1 look absolutely terrible. So you actually emailed the devs to see what their process was? Huh. And a campsite. Hooray. Alright, let's see what this merchant's got. Nothing out of the ordinary. Oh, I see. It's called Anodyne 2. Okay. I'll have to look that up. Because as usual, it's a thing, so I don't know about it. I'm just a weird little man in a weird little world. Okay, so before I go to Panglai, I'm going to... Oh, who's this? So I'm going to try and hit the academy, because I've got a bunch of mini medals to turn in. I don't know if I can actually go there, but at the very least I want to get all the... I want to revisit these places so I can zoom to them later. Oh, this place has seen better days. Oh, is that a Chiron? I mean, they probably have a cutesy weird name for it because it's Dragon Quest, but... Boy, everyone's selling night cleavers. So, let's make sure I can zoom. Yep, Jump Sauvage. You know, I still want to pick up Ikaruga. I mean, it'll be like the 4th copy of it I own, but man, it's a really good shooter. A friend of mine gave it to me for Christmas back in like 2007 for the GameCube, because I'd played it at his place. And I'm like, this gets everything right. And, he's like, you know, I actually have an extra copy. Merry Christmas. I'm like, oh, sweet. So later, I downloaded a copy for my Dreamcast. So that was, you know, that was illegal, but whatever. And then, hey, I remember that one. Oh, I'm turned around the wrong way, of course. And then I bought it on the 360. It was like less than $10 at the time. And now I'm just tempted to pick it up for the